John Hansen here with your week 5 waiver wire report. And if it looks like I'm smiling now and I'm happy, it's fake. I'm actually dead inside because I drafted Darren Waller and Daniel Jones in my number 1 league. Very, very unfortunate. The Giants look craptastic, but not going to give up. I'm going to work the waiver wire. And in this video, I'm going to lay out a few dudes here on the wire that I think could be real nice for you. Not the complete waiver wire report up for subscribers at fantasypoints.com, which I think is a very, very, very comprehensive report. A lot of detail in that report, a lot of the heavy lifting by our guy, Tom Brawley. And I pop in there as well and contribute. I pull out my top 15 ads, and then for these videos every week, I pull out a few dudes from those top 15 ads. Promo code Gurific25 if you want to save 25% off your Fantasy Points subscription. And even if you don't subscribe to the website, this is the week to go on over there because we are making the Fantasy Points data suite, which is sweeping the nation and the industry here in 2023 due to its awesomeness. We have made it free all week. Free test drive for the Fantasy Points data suite all week heading into week number 5. Head to data.fantasypoints.com, bookmark the page, check it out. All right, let's get into it here. Yes, unfortunately, I drafted Daniel Jones, but I did say on SiriusXM last week when looking at the quarterback I'm going to get to, because he was playing the Niners in week 4 and Daniel Jones had just crapped the bed against those Niners the week before. And I said, you know what? I'd rather go to battle against the Niners and anyone else with Josh Dobbs over Danny Dimes. And this is before Daniel Dimes laid another egg in week number 4. And of course, Dobbs yet again played well. He has strung together now 3 consecutive performances with 17 plus fantasy points per game, 28 of 41. The guy's completing 70% of his passes on the season, not a high YPA like 6.6, but still 70% when you were just airlifted into the Arizona Cardinal organization about a month ago is pretty darn impressive. 265 yards in week number 4, good for 23.4 fantasy points because, oh yeah, he also ran 12 times for 48 yards. He is clicking pretty darn well in Drew Petzing's offense, which is not a surprise because he was with Drew Petzing in Cleveland with the offense here. So he knows the offense fairly well. And I don't think there's any rush to play Kyler Murray. I'm not even convinced Kyler Murray's playing again this year for the Arizona Cardinals. So until proven otherwise, I'm just going to assume that Josh Dobbs is a starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. And I'll go to battle with him against anyone based on what he's shown this year, clicking really well with Hollywood Brown, leaning, at times on his veteran tight end and Zach Ertz, which is very smart. He's got a pretty intriguing young tight end in Trey McBride. And of course, our guy, Michael Wilson, did a video on Michael Wilson way back in June. If you want to check our feed, see what I said about him, it's all already coming true. We're going to get to him in a moment as well. But Josh Dobbs, my quarterback recommendation for the waiver wire, a little bit of a sneaky one. I mean, we could talk Sam Howell. We could talk a lot of people. I mean, depends on your league, of course. Stafford, Russ Wilson, obviously CJ Stroud are pretty obvious. I don't even think Josh Dobbs is that obvious at this point. Let's move on to running back. And certainly the pickings are slim there. You can look at Jaleel McLaughlin, as a priority ad for the week. The dude is the all-time leading rusher in NCAA history. Of course, he played D2 football, but no one else got any more rushing yards ever than Jaleel McLaughlin, who had over 1,200 carries. So the guy can handle a workload. He is very, very small. I don't know if he's wearing a special helmet or something, or if he just has a really small body, but watching him play, he kind of does look like Dark Helmet from Spaceballs, but he's very explosive. He's got a really nice burst, and, Samaje Perine is just a guy. They need some juice in that backfield. Javonte not really giving them that. So McLaughlin's fine, but I think a sneaky pickup, again, not that you can truly count on this guy in week 5 or whatever, but Chuba Hubbard has looked good now for the Carolina Panthers dating back to last year. Miles Sanders is what I call a fantasy two-face. One week he looks really good. Oh, look, Miles Sanders. And then the next week he looks like a jag. Chuba Hubbard has a little fantasy two-face in him from his rookie season in 2020. Didn't really look that good, but last year he looked really good. And this year he looks really good. And I dug into the Fantasy Points data suite for some information comparing and contrasting one Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. And well, the results were pretty clear. This is out of 44 running backs who have had at least 25 carries thus far through 4 games total, 25 carries total. Forced tackles or missed tackles forced. Chuba Hubbard, 5th out of 44. Miles Sanders, 43rd out of 44. Yards after contact per attempt. Chuba Hubbard, 6th out of 44. Miles Sanders is 41st out of 44. Interestingly enough, yards before contact, they're neck and neck, like 30th out of 44. So the O-line doing neither guy a favor, but Chuba Hubbard is getting it done without great blocking. I know Miles Sanders has been dealing with a groin injury, but he's Miles Sanders. What does he do? He disappoints us. Catch rate, not good. Miles Sanders is getting the targets, but right now my man has caught just 15 of 23 targets, whereas Chuba Hubbard, well, he's caught 11 of 12. So I'm not saying you can count on Chuba Hubbard, but you could probably start him in a pinch. And if Miles Sanders, goes down, then I think you're looking at a great RB2 in Chuba Hubbard. At wide receiver, of course, Michael Wilson. We all love this kid. We ranked him aggressively at fantasypoints.com. As soon as they traded away or let DeAndre Hopkins go, it was a foregone conclusion that Michael Wilson, the rookie out of Stanford, was going to start from basically day one. I followed him in the preseason, had a very good preseason, good showing. We ranked him well over his ADP. We were all big fans. Like I said, I did the video on him. I only did like 9 videos, really. One of them was on Michael Wilson. Did I know he was going to be this good, this quickly? No. When you look at your league leaders, you will find that Michael Wilson is actually number 3 ahead of Zay Flowers through 4 games. Obviously well ahead of Jackson Smith and Jigba and Quentin Johnson. So Michael Wilson getting it done, and boy, just doing it all. He is a very good route runner. He looks like a 3-year pro out there. Good ball skills, good size, physicality. I mean, what's there not to like with Michael Wilson, wide receiver, who is owned in only 2% of Yahoo leagues? And then let me throw out Jonathan Mingo real quick, who's only owned in 9% of Yahoo leagues. Ironically, it's not as good of a situation with Bryce Young, and he's certainly not a lock. Mingo does strike me as a guy who could tease us, but man, they do need some juice in Carolina. As soon as he returns from that concussion, I think Jonathan Mingo needs to be placed on the fast track. I know Terrence Marshall had a big game in week 4. He cannot be counted on, and neither can, well, DJ Chark, for that matter, or anyone else, Hayden Hurst. So Jonathan Mingo is a pretty good pickup for the long term, but the tight end that I will be starting indefinitely over Darren Waller is Dalton Schultz, who I actually at fantasypoints.com wrote up last week, believe it or not, as a player to trade for. Little did I know, everybody already bailed on his ass. Only owned in 36% of Yahoo leagues here coming out of week number 4, but he is a professional tight end, and I really sized up the field. And considering how well CJ Stroud is playing, of course, Dalton Schultz was a top 8 tight end in week 4, thanks to his touchdown. He only got like 3 targets, but considering he had a 7 target game earlier in the year, considering how solid CJ Stroud has looked, the protection is even holding up, despite the fact that their O-line is decimated, though they can't run the ball. Maybe they continue to throw it all over the yard. That is a good environment for Dalton Schultz. When I really surveyed the landscape, he really does look like a guy who could be one of the 12 most reliable and productive tight ends out there. So basically a tight end 1. Like I said, I picked him up in this 14-team league that is my number one league, Skank League. Nothing but garbage on the waiver wire. I saw him. I'm like, oh, let me drop Kenny Pickett, by the way, who I don't need as a backup, and get Dalton Schultz because Darren Waller's looking sketchy. And here we go. A week later, I'm starting Dalton Schultz. And you'll be starting, hopefully, the right players. Oftentimes you will if you are subscribing and liking all the good stuff at fantasypoints.com. And don't forget, free week of fantasy points data all week, heading into week number 5, data.fantasypoints.com. Check it out, subscribe, and then also use that promo code GURURIFIC25 to save yourself 25%. That's a wrap for this week. Thanks for watching. I'm John Hansen. We'll talk to you next time.